Let's take a trip to Hawkins, to the Upside Down, and kick some demonic ass. It took me a long while to get into Stranger Things, not the game, but the show. It's been out for a few years and I always watch the first episode, fully intend to get back into it and just forget about it. Over the past 2 weeks I made an effort to sit down and give it another go. I allowed myself a few episodes and if I wasn't going to enjoy it, I'd just stop. I found myself absolutely hooked and for the first time in my life binged a season of a show, which led to 2 seasons, which led to 3. Cut to 4 days ago, I finished everything, and found out there was a game and jumped straight into it. Now a fair warning, if you haven't seen season 3 of the show, which was fantastic mind you, do not watch this review of the game. Do not even watch the trailer for the game. It will spoil a lot of the major plot points. Stranger Things 3, the game, follows the plot almost to the letter of the latest season of the show. From the locations, plot points, even a lot of the jokes and dialogue are dumped straight into the game. After the first hour, I was a little concerned over whether I would get through the game. I just finished watching the show 12 hours prior, but honestly, this game was pretty enjoyable. Although the main plot points are pulled directly from the show, they have included a lot of side optional content. This can range from simple fetch quests to building someone an item, to having to clear out what is basically a multi-level dungeon filled with enemies and the occasional boss encounters, which was really cool because it seems they understood the point that these are kids that play Dungeons & Dragons. As you can see from the video here, the game has gone for a very 90s Super Nintendo era isometric action game. Fuck, that's a mouthful. It reminds me a lot of the Zombies Ate My Neighbors, or even older era PC games like Crusader, which was a fantastic game. I wish they'd make more of those. It definitely fits in with the vibe of the show, and although there have been a few times the viewpoint obfuscates things in the environment, or made it hard to navigate through technical glitches, or not being able to see where the hell I was going, it was done pretty well. Running around Hawkins is fun, and triggers that nostalgia if you were a gamer back in the 90s, or even before that, with a few cute little mentions they make to previous games like Zork. For instance, you were eaten by a grub. Well, as we all know in Zork, it was eaten by a gru, but there's some weird thing going on with licensing in this game. Let's stay away from that. There are many places to explore, from the kids' houses, the pool, the mall, the hospital, the list goes on. But you aren't limited to visiting these only once for a certain mission. You can go back any time, and as you unlock more characters, you have a reason to. Each character have their own type of attacks, whether it's plain physical, chemical damage, fire, ice, electricity, but they also have a special move. These can inflict massive damage, or even give you a heal at a desperate time, which I used a hell of a lot because this game can get very tough. Aside from these special moves, the characters have certain abilities that tie directly to the show. Joyce has her bolt cutters, so after you gain her as a character, you can go break padlocks, which opens up more areas. Dustin is also able to hack keypads and so on. It's a really cool idea and gives you a reason to go back and explore these areas, although you'll mainly be finding garden gnomes and crafting materials. Yeah, I said garden gnomes. There's a quest in the game that I know I will never finish, which is you have to collect 50 garden gnomes hidden throughout Hawkins in order to make a guy that shut himself in his house happy. Dear God. The crafting materials though are super important, not just for crafting specific quest items to continue, but you're able to craft something they call trinkets. Trinkets get applied on the character screen and give your character certain bonuses. Some are global for all characters, such as health increases or speed boosts, but some are entirely unique to who you decide to play as, for instance increasing fire damage. It's important to keep this in mind as you can switch characters on the fly with a single button. You don't have to go back to a single point to change out characters for whoever's ability you need. Combat in the game, even though you've got these abilities and special abilities, it's very basic. It's a matter of running up to a character and mashing a button, occasionally using your special move. The special moves consume energy, which you can replenish with coke. You're able to dodge some attacks as each enemy seems to choreograph them. It could be as simple as seeing an arm wind up or the timing of gunshots, but a lot of the time, well, you're gonna be surrounded with what amounts to rats ganging up on you. So hopefully you brought a lot of medkits and have the healing character ready. The difficulty in this game definitely did spike after the second half. This isn't due to tougher enemies, of which there isn't much variation, but is a case of there just being, well, more of them. You'll enter rooms that are packed with a range of enemies, both close combat and ranged, sometimes just being spammed with explosives and peppered with bullets. Honestly, it's goddamn annoying and frustrating. The latter part of the game introduced a boss. This consists of two people who, when they're near each other, heal very quickly. That was frustrating as shit. When you get there, just remember you can tell your partner to wait. It seems to be the only trick that worked in that long fight. The health bars of bosses are ridiculously long, and without careful trinket management you'll have a rough time. Outside of the trinket system mentioned earlier, there's no RPG mechanics at all, which would have been a nice way to have a way to say boost health or attack and focus your party in a direction. I mean, hell, not all games need it, and I'm sick of people just chucking it into games that don't. But these kids are known for Dungeons and Dragons, so it really would have fit in with the whole idea. Thankfully, as frustrating as the difficulty can get, the developers implemented a decent save point system. Whenever I died and had to go back, I was only about 5 seconds walking from where I dropped, whether it was a boss fight or whether it was just dying in the middle of a labyrinthine maze. So lots of enemies, and the frustrating difficulty spikes aren't the only crappy thing in the later half of the game. To me, it feels like the developers realized the game was maybe just a bit too short. It sits on just over 6 hours for a full playthrough, and so they did include a lot of those labyrinth-like mazes, switch puzzles and timers that if you failed, it's game over. You don't have to go back very far, but you've got this short timer, these puzzles, enemies ganging up all around you. It just felt really strange, and it just felt like filler and padding that you don't need. Make the game 4 hours and awesome, don't give me shitty 2 hours at the end that makes me just want to put the game down. The puzzles were neat and alright at the start, adding a little bit of fun, but by the end they just ramped them up to a point of frustration. Alright, time to wrap this up. So this game was $30 here in Australia, $20 in the US. The game is actually quite fun. As much as I said I was frustrated at the end those previous 2 hours, it was actually still really cool and I felt satisfied at the end. Although you can go back and play it after the story, I feel absolutely no need to. The side quests don't generally add much to the universe and I don't want to be collecting 50 goddamn gnomes. So the replayability may be not there. If you're a big fan of the series, jump in and get it now. Just pay heed to my warnings and you'll probably get a kick out of it. If you're not a huge fan of the series but do love old school isometric games, I'd say maybe wait a bit for the price to drop because this is definitely one of the good ones. Thank you for watching. My name is Andrew. Please leave me a comment down below and I will see you later.